Where are Web3 and blockchain in the Nordics at the moment regarding development?
I think it's what's puzzling us is that we are actually quite far. So we have some really good established players who are doing amazing things. You got MiCA who are creating one of the best cases, right? You got a lot of people doing it. You got universities who are researching, and you can get courses. But what we see is that there is lacking a united ecosystem. That's of course what we're fighting for as well. So we think there's a lot of individual who are doing great things of it. So for us, we think there is a lot of really seriously people working in it. What we're missing and what we feel is that we want to talk about like legislation, because if you want to have mass adoption, you need to have institutionals as well. You need to have retailers, and right now that's not it's not transparent. It's extremely hard to understand. So we need to have a good legal framework. We need to have more focus on good use cases, and we need to have more funding, more research, and more platforms, accelerators, startup houses, and in general just public funding to showcase or willing capital and not just venture capital. So we think we are at a good place. We're just missing a lot, but we think we can accelerate quite fast. It's extremely important. You need if this is I would say the first step of creating a venture, right, or engaging into something, you need to have regulatory ease at mind. So it's extremely important there is a playing room, so we know a playing field, so you know what's going on. Common stand is we just need to have regulation in place. So we're really positive towards all regulatory framework, and we just want to make sure that the industry is included in the implementation. And we're getting some really positive signs that people and the people deciding actually understand that the industry need to be part of it, but just want to stress if it's then not done properly, it could be quite bad. So we're extremely positive towards clarity in legislation.
Since last year, metaverse boomed. This year, artificial intelligence is booming. Maybe 2 years ago, Web3 was booming. Do you think that artificial intelligence and immersive technology is part of a Web3 development, or is it a connected type of technology?
Of course, I think first is the most important question to ask is what is Web 3.0? Is that actually defined yet? And in my personal opinion, and I think in NBA's opinion as well, is not defined yet. You have seen some good use cases of what it could become, but it's more important to discuss what is needed before we can actually have a metaverse or Web 3.0, which is truly decentralized online present. And blockchain is a component of that. They're not the owner of that solution. So AI, machine learning, and all these different things plays a really important part of creating a digital and online universe. So for us, we see emerging technologies that's coming out. It's just part of it because the component needed to actually define what Web 3.0 is not there yet. So we just, for us, we're being a little bit, let's say, blockchain are being a little bit more out in the open for a longer time than that AI have existed for a long time. So I think it's about defining how do they actually work together to create a great and transparent and trusty online experience for everyone.
What about adoption? Because we still are, at least on the blockchain, we are still maybe just some 100 millions or 200 millions on the global scale. And people have been talking about getting billions on board for several years. But it seems to be happening something in the institutional investor space, is at least in other countries. Is that also the case in the Nordics?
I spent quite a lot of time in the States, and for sure they've really been focusing on the fundamental of from an institutional to enter into the market, which is custodianship, how to basically do with the keys, like a lot of infrastructure and security. And I think in the US and other places in the world, they have that ready, right? And then when you have that ready, then you can actually go on board. And I think in the Nordic, we're still lacking a little bit behind. I think there's some great partners of NBA as well, who are doing a great job of educating institutional. We see institutional moving into the space, but I think there's still like MiCA. I think a lot of people are waiting the new regulatory framework to understand if they can basically come in. So in my opinion, if you look at adoption, there's the institutional adoption, which is capital. And then I think we must be honest as an industry as well that, I mean, 12 seed phrases to remember. I mean, would you do that as a normal consumer? I still think there's some of the UX that need to be fixed. I mean, when I joined the space, I mean, it was quite complicated. It took me some time, and I still triple check everything before I do a transfer. And I think if you want to have consumer mass adoption, you don't need to be a doubt at all. So I think the institutional infrastructure need to be in place, but we see a lot of people working into it, like fixing staking, fixing KYC, custodianship. So I think we got the component for it, which is really good for institutional. But I still think as use case, we've seen a lot of, I think it's 500,000 wallet. I think that the Danish tax authority listed that's created out there. I'm pretty sure a lot of it is retail trading. So in my opinion, usability without trading is the next step. And I think interface, UX, and UI is extremely important. And we see some of our members are doing amazing things where you don't even need, I mean, if you don't look for it, you wouldn't know it's blockchain. It's just solving problem 10 times better than existing solutions. So I think that's kind of the things that we're seeing right now, which could drive mass adoption from retail and not just trading.
What about brands then? It seems like a lot of famous brands in fashion, in sports, and entertainment are sort of trying to create something. Someone calls it Web 2.5, because it's using both Web 2 technology and Web 3 technology, but as part of a community building or loyalty building. Do you also see this in the Nordics?
Yeah, we see. And I think the important part here is like the way that we look at it, that it's membership, it's prepayment, it's all these different components, which is well known. And that's what we're seeing right now in different variants. And I think NFTs is a really good example of how you can create a great community. So this is the early stage of adoption. And I think the creative industry are always doing a great job with nascent technologies. So I think this is the first sign of something will actually happen, because they would always be the first movers. And I think, again, there's just an airline who just launched a loyalty program backed by NFT, but there was not a word about blockchain and NFTs. It was just the infrastructure they were building behind. So I think we're seeing a lot of these, and then there's a lot of public initiatives as well. I think the Nordic Blockchain Alliance are doing a really great job on the design and architecture and supply chain. They've done 16 different POCs, which is really having tremendous impact. So I think we see a lot of it, but that's just our early part of the adoption would often go to the creative economies. So I think just is a good sign that things are actually happening, because if you're a financial institution, you need a little bit more security, you need a little bit more time, but hopefully MiCA will provide that